Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto, and we just got breaking news. The Supreme Court is striking down Trump's global tariffs. This is happening as we speak. This is seconds ago, and we're going to be checking in on Bitcoin, on the other markets here, see how everything is reacting. Let's go to the 1 minute. You see, whoa, the markets are uncertain at this moment. You can see huge whipsaw price action here, but what are we bouncing off? What is this blue line? And I don't want to say, how do we know it was going to do this? But you can see here, this is strong support. This is a parallel channel. Bitcoin established Sunday on the 15th. So we're going on about a 5-day channel. Broke out briefly here. You can see a nice little move. This is going to be happening last night, early this morning. Came back down to retest. And look at the wicks on this 1 hour candle as we're digesting this news. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about, the other altcoin impacts. And I'm joined here with TJ and Drew, talking about this major news from the Supreme Court. This is going to be very interesting to see how they unwind this, or, what's going to end up happening here.
Yeah, what comes next will absolutely be interesting. I'm not surprised to see the tariffs ending. We kind of were predicting that he would back off in April anyway, maybe because he knew this was coming. But this, it's tough because markets don't love uncertainty. That's part of why the tariffs caused a lot of the downward price action that we experienced. So there's uncertainty as to how this is actually going to get handled and rolled back. But that being said, having them off the table completely at least gives us certainty that we now know what the decision is going to be. So I think this could be the beginning of a stair step towards back towards all-time highs. I still believe we're going to see very bullish summer. Got Chainlink in the news today. We've got all kinds of different things happening. So yeah, it's never boring in crypto. It's never boring in markets. But Drew, what's your take?
Probably going to pump. It's everything is upside down world right now. It is very interesting seeing us pop off that top end of the downward trend line. As the news was released, it's released right during that kind of 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. scam pump up and down. And really, I'm in a season where up is down, down is up. And, this is something that we've had commitments from major companies to start building manufacturing facilities in the United States. What happens to those locations? Do those companies pull out? Do those jobs that were prospective to come back to the U.S. economy basically disappear? This is on top of bad GDP data as well. So we have a lot going on right now. In essence, the plebe that wants lower prices on Bitcoin is pleased right now. I am happy about that potential.
Yeah, let's look at the stock market as well. I'm looking at the futures here. This is the S&P 500 futures. So this is going to be, around 8 in the morning. Flat, okay, we get a little bit of movement here. 9:30, get a little market open. Tariff announcement. Bam, boom, bow, ping. Feels like a 1950s comic book over here. Let's go ahead and talk about this story real quick. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This happened minutes ago. Supreme Court strikes down Trump's global tariffs. Ruling finds the president exceeded his powers. So the global tariffs are illegal. The Supreme Court ruled just this morning, stinging repudiation of the official White House initiative here. The decision, written by John Roberts, removes the tool of diplomatic pressure that Trump has aggressively wielded to remake U.S. trade deals and collect tens of billions of dollars from companies importing foreign goods. Here is the first time the High Court has definitively struck down one of his second-term policies. 3 conservative justices dissented here: Kavanaugh, Alito, and Clarence Thomas. And the case involved 2 categories of tariffs. Trump imposed one category on virtually every country in the world, ostensibly to repair trade deficits, meaning presumably, we're assuming here is to repair trade deficits. He imposed the other set of tariffs, Mexico, Canada, and China, saying they're responsible of illegal fentanyl flowing into America. They rejected the argument that a 1977 law implicitly authorized both groups of tariffs. Had they intended to convey the distinct and extraordinary power to impose tariffs, it would have done so expressly. So saying this 1977 law doesn't match the language that Trump is claiming that it has. The tariffs constituted a large majority of Trump's duties, over the next decade. The president imposed through his claims of emergency powers expected to raise $1.5 trillion. He had tariffs on Canada, China, Mexico, February of 2025. And he declared, kind of moving forward here, no president had invoked the emergency power law as a basis for tariffs. 3 different lower courts ruled them unlawful, including a specialized federal appeals court. Across 3 decisions, they weighed in on the actions, 11 concluding he exceeded his authority here. They remain in place during the litigation. They'd urged the high court to resolve it quickly. I'm kind of wondering, and then it's going to be interesting rolling this back, fellas. But the market's still digesting this news. This is breaking news, and we're about to head into a low liquidity weekend, and we have a Middle East buildup, the likes we haven't seen since the middle of 2004.
Yeah, it's not like I said, never boring. It's every weekend is low liquidity. Anything could happen. And then we've even got the chat saying Trump out here saying he's got a backup plan. So there you go. There's more uncertainty in the market. So this is why we can't have nice things. It feels like just, we didn't realize how good we had it in 2021, and the world was simpler back then. And
Biden was eating ice cream. He barely showed up. He didn't
just taking naps and eating ice cream, right?
We were kings. And this is like the time frame where if the conversation and the tariff litigation has now failed Trump, what's left? When conversation stops, in my opinion, chaos follows, right? So Trump might back up to his commander-in-chief capabilities in this situation, which is going to make for some chaos here. But it's kind of interesting that he's got some dissenting Supreme Court justices that he thought were on his side no matter what. Right, that is kind of striking to me as well, DZ. I mean, do you think that it's going to be a crash out day for Trump against the Supreme Court now?
Speaking of Trump crash out, I did go to Truth Social. I'm not seeing anything just yet. He just has this pinned post. It looks like some sponsored posts right there. 2 hours ago, he was talking about the GDP numbers. I thought the big GDP numbers were the big story of the day. Looks like no. Supreme Court said, hold my beer. We're going to go ahead and exceed that. I do want to look at the fallout that we're seeing here. I just hit refresh. Going to definitely need it today. Right now, like I said, the markets are digesting this news. There is a little bit of uncertainty. We do got some good news for XRP. We are going to talk about XRP's role at the White House meeting yesterday. They had their chief legal officer, Stuart Alderody, over there. But Bitcoin right now up 1.2%. We're seeing a little bit of movement with Cardano with the nice pump. Cardano pumping about 5% here. Kite is up. I have to look more into what this one is. Morpho, Drew, how about that? 14% pump.
I'm loving it.
Something that I'm doing is right. Morpho is just, and I've been digging into, and that's what I'm going to be doing on the members only portion of the show, is really gutting the analytics of Morpho, Aave, Chainlink. I have a whole slew of things that I want to be looking into, but Tao and Morpho and Canton are giving me FOMO even in a terrible market condition, which says a lot for what these projects could actually end up doing when money flow starts flowing back to the green on Bitcoin and the good times come back to crypto. Because I don't think it's down forever. And mapping out things that I think have good tokenomic structure and can provide big green piles of cash for me in my bag. Those are the ones that are first and foremost showing the signs of strength over the last few weeks.
I'm really pumped about Morpho. This might be the winner of the next cycle. I do know lending and borrowing is going to be a hot category. Many of the big banks and institutions, this is their core business. This is an area that they understand, and it's a lot less complex than the rest of DeFi. So Aave obviously has a big lead there, but Morpho has Coinbase at its back, and this is something Coinbase is extremely focused on for their business. So yeah, I think Morpho, I'm pumped. I'm glad I hold it. And you and I were talking earlier today. It feels like wanting to just yeet anything you have on the sidelines. You just want to throw it all in Morpho these days because it's looking juicy. I've been thinking about it for the last week, and I still have a decent amount, but I should have bought more.
Now, Morpho, interestingly, is bouncing around this 786 on the Fib extensions. You can see, wow, look at that coming. The wick almost came all the way down here. So keep an eye out on this range. If we do break out, you do have a technical target right around $2.05. We could just say $2 to make it a little bit easier here. So we might see a little bit of a pump from $1.50 to $2 if the bullish trend can continue. So Morpho looking pretty good right now, and I'd be surprised if we didn't see some bullishness especially on the 3-day, especially on the daily. Yeah, we got nice 3-day bull div, which is my favorite one. This is my favorite reverse signal in the charts there. So very bullish for Morpho here. And yeah, look at that 3-day bull dip playing out beautifully here.
Yeah, a lot of the chat talking about Tao being very strong too, which I agree with. I think Tao's another crowd favorite or in office favorite. Anyway, I'm pretty sure all three of us are on board with Tao, holding a decent amount of Tao. Max supply also I like. We were actually talking about that this morning. I'm getting more bearish on layer ones that aren't Ethereum, especially ones that have uncapped max supplies. Almost everything I'm looking at now does have a max supply, even Aave, Tao, another one of those.
Tao has strong support too. I don't hate, getting your feet wet with your Tao ecosystem here. Look at that strong support. Didn't quite come up to it or quite fall down to it rather. And you can see, maybe bouncing, but Tao does the same thing every single time, gets stuck in a little parallel hell. And then it has a huge run up, parallel hell, run up, parallel, run up, parallel, sideways action into a little run up, and now we're in another parallel hell. Just call it Dante's Inferno's Memecoin.
Yeah, chat. Let me know if you had to pick. You got $10,000 right now. You only can pick one, Tao or Morpho. What's your pick? DZ, Tao or Morpho? One only.
I'm gonna go with Tao because it's easier to explain to a normie, and so if retail comes in, the normies come in. I think Tao is going to be the coin they'll more likely buy.
True.
I'm in this situation literally right now. And I'm doing a half and half split. Right. I'm doing a half and half split.
But
if I
just
had
for the content, I'm not okay. Half and half is fine.
If I have to choose one,
if you have to choose one, which one is it?
Morpho. Yeah.
All right.
I'm doing Morpho. I'm doing Morpho.
Now I have to decide, I guess, because I'm the tiebreaker here. I think I'm going Morpho too. Simply because it's lower market cap, higher upside.
It's in a more bullish structure. The trend is your friend. Morpho's in a bullish trend. Tao not in a bullish trend. So I would say, that's from a technical standpoint, just from looking at the trend being your friend, heuristic. It is going to be Morpho, but we do have some other. Look, it's a jam-packed news day today. There's a lot of stuff going on. We also got the White House meeting yesterday. XRP representatives were there. Per source in the room, today's stablecoin meeting was smaller than last week's, but they had people from Coinbase, Ripple, aka XRP, A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, Blockchain Association, Crypto Council, and 3 different banking associations here. Public statements are saying it was productive and constructive. But what does that mean? Well, according to Eleanor Terrett's sources here, there was a notable difference. Patrick Witt in the White House took the lead. They drove the discussion rather than letting crypto firms and the bank trades steer the discussion as in prior meetings. Patrick Witt brought some draft text. We're going to be showing that in a little bit. No deal is better than a bad deal. This is a bad deal, according to Nick Carter. So he has some hot takes. Brad Garlinghouse of XRP, he is bullish, though. Whether or not it's a good deal or a bad deal, he's just saying there's a 90% chance this is going to pass by April. He says this is going to be, of course, talking about the Clarity Act here. And this is going to define which digital assets fall under securities laws and which would be seen by the CFTC. It has faced friction over the stablecoin reward provisions and whether crypto platforms should be able to offer yield to their customers, people like you. The White House reportedly set a March 1st target to push negotiations forward. Brad Garlinghouse of XRP framed the bill as imperfect but necessary. He said the industry can't live in limbo. But speaking of XRP in limbo, let's look at the price, everybody. XRP still in this parallel channel. This is a multi-day, another one for about 5 days. Very strong bounce. I hope you're paid. We showed you this parallel channel when we're traipsing along the bottom right here. If you drew this out, you maybe got in on a long, might not have hit your target there. And XRP, pretty much a strong, clean rejection off this halfway point. You can see, go to the 12-minute. See, boom, try to get the bulls in charge. Right now, the bears trying to push XRP back down, $1.37. But folks, a lot of movement is going to be happening with the markets today with the Supreme Court decision. So just be a little bit careful. Back to that White House meeting, though, they did float limited stablecoin rewards in this meeting. We rolled up our sleeves and went through specific language today. This is now XRP's head lawyer, Chief Legal Officer Stuart Alderodi. He posted on X saying the meeting was constructive and the tone was cooperative. Blockchain Association said it was a constructive step forward. We're seeing some positive here. In the third meeting that first met February 2nd. They then met February 10th. And of course, the Senate is now looking to pass the bill on how these regulators will police crypto. The House passed a similar version in July, but the effort has stalled as the Senate Banking Committee has not secured that bipartisan support. We need support from the Democrats to move this forward. Banking groups have said the stablecoin rewards will compete with and undermine the bank system. But Eleanor Tarrant, one banking member, he just came clean. He said, look, the concern is more from competitive pressure rather than deposit flight. They know not everybody's just going to, let me get all my money. I'm going to run over to Robinhood or PayPal or Coinbase. That's not their concern. They're more concerned about competition, competitive pressures. Well, hey, people complaining to the branch manager, complaining customer service. Why are they offering me 4%, 5% over here, and you're offering me 0.04%? Yeah, that's going to piss off your customers.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, on some levels for the engaged customers. That being said, the bank deposits are pretty sticky. Once somebody starts using a bank, they don't just run to another bank super fast. I mean, I know.
Yeah, you wait till you get a bunch of overdraft fees, and then you just quit answering the phone.
Yeah, if you actually have money in your bank account, it probably stays there. What causes people to move is when they have zero money in their bank account. Like, all right, I guess I'll go open another one. But most people I know are whatever their first bank account was that they opened when they were 16, 18, however old they were, they're still using that bank for the most part, just because it's not a fun transition to make. But over time, that's really what happens is over time, young people that are coming up into the system are not going to use the old legacy system. And that's, to me, pretty clear. The banks have already lost that battle. No young person, no 16-year-old today is going to, rush into, and this is funny because Andreas Antonopoulos talked about this years and years and years ago, probably back in 2016. He was saying it's the young children, the next generation, when they're going to be told by the banks the way their rules work and they can only have access to their money at these times and only do these transactions. They're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm using it digitally already much more efficiently. Yeah. If you guys haven't listened to some of his stuff, especially the early days, one of the best evangelists of Bitcoin, in my opinion. If you guys, a lot of people probably have heard of the Internet of Money. That is just a collection of his talks. Volume 1, Volume 2.
If you were here for the 2017 cycle, he probably definitely hit your radar.
Absolutely. He's been on Rogan. He was the first one on Rogan, and not the first one. He was one of the earlier ones on Joe Rogan singing the praises of Bitcoin, I think back in something like 2016. So he was there day one, speaking to empty ballrooms with 4 people in it about how, and a lot of his predictions have played true. One of my favorite, if you don't watch anything, just go, and you guys have heard, if you've watched this channel a while, you've heard me mention this, go watch his talk. It's called, you just type in Andreas Antonopoulos, Money as a System of Control, like 12 minutes. It's not long at all. Everybody should go watch that and send it to your friends.
Yeah, he'll have you saying crazy things like monopoly on violence and things that will make your family uncomfortable at Thanksgiving. So
that's right.
Jump on it, folks. Jump on it. All right. Now, other major news, like I said, this jam-packed day full of news. We are going to look at a couple more charts. Also got some crazy stablecoin stuff I want to show you. But we also got GDP numbers this morning. Slowed down to 1.4%, well below expectations of 3%. I don't know where they got their 3% expectations. I've been seeing some 2.5s out there. So it grew more slowly in Q4 of 2025, weighed down by the government shutdown and slower consumer spending. GDP rose at 1.4%. Economists were expecting a 2.5% reading there. It was a sharp slowdown from the summer's 4.4% rate. In 2025, for the whole year, now we're not talking about the quarter, economy grew 2.2%, measured from the fourth quarter of the prior year. That was slower than the 2.4 that we got the year prior, and the weakest one we've seen since 2022. Economists were expecting 2.3 instead of the 2.2 for 2025. Now, a lot of this was the reduction in services by federal government workers. This carved about 1 percentage point from the inflation-adjusted GDP growth for the recent quarter. So because we had a government shutdown, a lot of people didn't get paychecks. That alone, that kind of shows you how much we have employed by the federal government, but that alone shaved 1% off that GDP. So we're seeing a lot of, let's just say tailwinds from these numbers here. Now, Walmart, I want to share this. They said consumers are spending cautiously And just be careful. Walmart is one of the better bellwethers for the economy. They're saying even their low income shoppers are starting to slow it down. And the gap is widening slightly, seeing the haves and the have nots. It's just growing and growing and growing, that divide between them too. So seeing, I would say, muted data on the GDP numbers. That shutdown obviously was going to hurt it here. And now, honestly, that news was huge, but it may be overshadowed by what happens this weekend in the Middle East, and may be overshadowed by the tariff news as well.
Absolutely. Trump's backup plan, I think, is it's going to be more physical. I think the tariffs being ruled out, that was one of Trump's main things that he was able to hinge on. Like, we're bringing the economy back, the tariffs, it's great. We saw him last night here in Georgia. Actually, he was up in Rome, Georgia, talking about it. And really, like, the outlook of the GDP being way below expectations, the psyop that the economy is doing well, I think, is not being received by the public at large. We're almost in Alabama where I live, and I do feel a little bit like an alien going to local shopping centers and seeing the paring down. I mean, and it's really sad what people are choosing to buy too. They're choosing to buy like racks of Coca-Cola, and it's a disconnect from the haves and have-nots. It's widening, and this is why we really need to solve freedom through crypto as a nation, as a culture, right? Like, if we really think that we're going to change the financial future, is it going to be forcing this haphazard regulation that XRP loves down the throats of the crypto industry and cutting our knees off, even if it is halfway? I think that XRP just wants to force this thing through, just for the sake of saying we have clarity, let's move on, instead of really wanting to change anything about where and how we got to where we are.
I would add to that, they were ruled a commodity. They were ruled not a security, rather. That was a landmark decision for crypto. And so as the CFTC gets more and more powers, they're probably going to be pretty friendly with those same people. Also, XRP, they don't really care about stablecoin rewards, whether it's a bank, whether it's a crypto exchange. They, like you said, they just want clarity. They want to get closer to the finish line, and they just want buy pressure for their XRP token. I think at the end of the day, get that clarity pass, they're going to get extra buy pressure. But speaking of buy pressure, we're seeing sell pressure instead. Wall Street is doing a lot of selling lately. Bitcoin ETF shed another $166 million as Bitcoin has its worst start literally ever, everybody, for the year, for the first 50 days. ETF saw 165 million yesterday. Weekly outflow, 400 million. And BlackRock led the outflow. So of the 400 million, 368 million of that belongs to BlackRock. Drops Analytics highlighted Bitcoin's price in the context of a halving here. Almost 2 years later, Bitcoin trades at $66,000, nearly the same level as the halving day in April 24. This has never happened before. Previous cycles, Bitcoin's already 3 to 10x above the halving level by now. Despite ETF showing 50 billion in net inflows, 2026 is shaping up to one of the worst yearly starts in Bitcoin's history. I'll take it a step further. The worst drop in Bitcoin's history. How bad? The worst out of all of them. Worst 50-day start to a year on record. It's down 23% so far. This is the weakest start to the financial year ever. I pulled up the chart here. I found this on, let me open this. Is it CoinGlass maybe? Check on chain.com. The black line is 2026. And look at that right there. By far the worst year that we've seen for Bitcoin here. Up years, down years, and election years. And so we're comparing it to, I want to say, okay, so they aggregated it here. So even worse than all the down years were worse than down year on record.
Yeah, so I think I saw a similar stat, the worst start of the year ever for Bitcoin, which, again, me, the ever the optimist. To me, that's great. That means it's not going to last much longer. Obviously, it's painful right now, but I think I really do believe we're speed running the bear market. Obviously it's been almost down only since October. A traditional theory would say that continues until next October. I think it's going to get shortened a little bit. I think we're going to start to see the reversal happen this summer. But only time will tell. And it's like I said, it has definitely not been boring this year. But I do believe, inflation coming down dramatically fast. Now these tariff implications and what this backup plan Trump's talking about might be will have some implications. We're getting a new Fed chair. We're getting new classifications for crypto. So the phrase I keep coming back to was one you mentioned to me, Drew, where Scott Bessent said, we're nearing another Bretton Woods type moment, which if you have studied your history and you know what Bretton Woods and Bretton Woods 2.0 are, that is our global economic restructuring, more or less. And if that's happening, obviously most of us on this channel and those of you who have watched and been a part of the crypto community for a long time realize it very well could be the new digital economy, which is Bitcoin is the backbone of. But either way, things will not be the same in the new era, period.
Yeah.
And this is what people are talking about. Yeah, Trump is announcing a backup plan. We don't know what this backup plan. I'm refreshing True Social. I'm seeing if he's going to fire off one of those. God, the ads here are just terrible. Sponsored. The skull. Here we go. Yeah, still just the tweet 3 hours ago talking about the shutdown and the GDP number. So we'll keep hitting refresh. We'll see if Trump's going to say something spicy, I guess. I don't know what that could look like, but Trump gets spicy. Probably not going to be a big surprise there. All right, let's talk about TJ saying a bottom is near. What are we going to see? We're going to see this right here. A sharp rebound and Bitcoin difficulty. It jumped 15%. This is the largest increase since 2021. A lot of you might be able to guess what happened in 2021 to create this big jump here. The difficulty rebounded as the hash rate recovers despite multi-year low hash price. And so here you can see the difficulty has climbed 15%. This is the largest percentage increase since 2021. That's when China mining ban led to a major disruption, which then followed a 22% upward adjustment as the network stabilized, aka the Chinese miners left mainland China and they went to, was it Uzbekistan or
Kazakhstan?
Kazakhstan. I know it's
very nice.
Yeah, it's the ones with the potassium. That's right. It's the other potassium is inferior.
I thought you were going to say borat. Come on.
No, they're known for their potassium and what they do with cages. But anyways, however, a major factor behind the recent decline in the hash rate is that several mining companies are turning off the Bitcoin mining and then doing computing capacity for AI and high-performance computing data centers. That's one half of it. The other half, winter storm. A lot of people shut off their rigs in America. Then they turn on their rigs. And now we're also starting to see the rebound from that as well. But a lot of it is going to be just these large mining companies reallocating to AI. Here's another activist investor, Starboard, has urged Riot platforms to further expand into AI data centers. So the bleed of the, let's just say, Bitcoin companies to AI compute farms, it may continue. We are starting to see more and more as AI's appetite continues to grow. We've all seen that movie. It's called Terminator 2. Now, this is another thing we're going to see with an potentially explosive move for Bitcoin. Are we near a bottom? Well, this is what we see near bottom, the tightening Bollinger Band. Bollinger Bands just measure the volatility over a period of time. When the price is flat for a long time, real tight Bollinger Band. When there's swings everywhere, like after the Supreme Court decision on the 1 minute, you're going to get a wide band there. It's narrowed to its tightest level ever. But this is with the monthly candles here. So key volatility indicator has narrowed to its tightest measurement on record, a pattern that's followed multi-month rallies and previous bull and bear markets. Will the Bollinger Bands indicator call the market bottom again? Followed by analyzing the monthly chart. Dork Chicken, sounds like an Adult Swim cartoon there, noted that Bitcoin's Bollinger Bands are currently at the tightest level on record. Such conditions repeatedly led to bullish breakouts. There's only one time it didn't, and that was in 22 during the drop from 16 to 20. I zoomed in on that. I was curious about that because here you can see it tightens, we go to the upside. Tightens, go to the upside. Titans, go to the upside. Attack on Titans, we go to the upside. Every single time it goes to the upside except for once, and that's right here, this green line, and that's when Bitcoin flushed down to 20K. A lot of people said 20K is the bottom. I was in that camp. I was like, I just don't see it going below 20K. I'll be ready if it does. FTX collapsed, and it basically teleported from 20 to 16. There's an argument to be made. If FTX didn't collapse right here, we'd be 4 for 4. It'd basically point to an upside move every single time. So this is a bullish metric. They measure price volatility, and extreme compressions often lead to the sharp expansion. And we might be seeing the sharp expansion right now. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. So we got basically 3 out of 4 times breaks to the upside. You could say 4 out of 5 if you want to include this one. Are you guys also feeling a break to the upside here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're near bottom anyway. I don't know if it's immediate break to the upside, but maybe bouncing along the bottom for a little while, or, you know, a maybe minor upside, like getting back where we're at here. Say we get up to 69K, 70K, something like that. But yes, this to me, you guys have been hearing me say it for a while. 65K feels like the line in the sand. If we lose 65K, you know, it's a quick trip into the 40s, in my opinion. But I do believe 65K will hold, and we will see us move back up towards 70. And then it's just a matter of time before we start the march back towards all-time highs. But Drew, you have different thoughts?
Well, last bear market was like 420 days, roughly, in that whole zone from 20 down to 15 and back up to the mid 20s. I do agree with the thesis that it's going to be a quicker bear market than it was last time. Systemically, nothing has broken anywhere close to what broke last cycle. There was Luna, there's Celsius, Voyager, there was FTX, and FTX at the time was a major exchange here in the United States. So I think that looking at more of like a 150, maybe 200-day time frame of essentially pain at previous all-time highs of 2021. Also, the major volume node, and really kind of the main spot where all the action happened with the ETFs in this 65 down to 54-ish range, is the spot where I see the defense happening. The main thing that I'm watching is the weekly on Bitcoin's money flow to see when it starts to swoop back up. So that being said, I think that we have roughly, I'm going to measure it out here. I'm going to measure this out. So we're only like 21 days into this, right? We're only 21 days into the pain zone. So I think that looking at this and being patient enough to see the swoop happen, maybe it's 150, maybe it's 200 days, but I do feel like over the course of the end of the summer, we're going to start to see this money flow red out. This is basically money leaving Bitcoin, right? And the sentiment being down, it's all understandable. You can feel it in the air. I think that it's going to take us a little bit of time to dig ourselves out of this. And I do think that the 50% drawdown rather than the previous 75% drawdown of last bear market, I think that that thesis is going to stick. We're at a 52% drawdown as things sit right now. And I am very staunch on this thesis that we basically just wash back down to previous all-time highs. And that's where I start buying. I did this here in the 22 time frame very heavily. And now we're in that zone that is the previous 21 all-time high. On top of that, the monstrous amount of volume that happened from ETFs and large buyers in this zone is telling me that this is essentially a trampoline spot. I know there's a lot of, people look at the 75% drawdown or the 80% drawdown here, and they'll draw the conclusion that you're looking for a 65% drawdown from all-time highs. And now basically that would bring it down to like $40,000. We already see aliens coming out. We already see essentially the third world championship going down, and it still hasn't broken down to those levels. I feel like this is the spot where I got to buy. And, I have time to buy, and I'm actively buying during this time frame. My interest in these seasons is very focused on Bitcoin. Morpho is making me feel FOMO. Tao is making me feel FOMO. I think Aerodrome is systemically, as things sit, useful to the base ecosystem. So in this zone, I think we're about 21 days into this. I think we got at least another 120 days of good bottom blasting to do. And that is what I like to do. So
Good bottom blasting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is accelerated, and I think we are going to see that. I got another metric kind of proving what you're saying there, Drew. That's the death cross on the 3-day. We've gotten a death cross every single bear market, and it's going to be when this 50-day moving or the 50 candle moving average falls below this 20 candle moving average. And you can see basically every bear market, we get one every time it falls lower, considerably lower, 50% lower, essentially. Here you can see death cross. Major move from 6,000 to 3,000. This one was, I think, 400 to 200. We got another one right here. This would take us, as it hit, prices right around 30,000 to 15,000. So another 50% move to the downside. And then we're about to do it again. Oh my God, we're going to fall another 50%. Kind of what Drew was saying. We're taking longer. We are taking longer. Basically, it's taken 3 months. I'm sorry. 90 candles or 180 days here. So we're looking at 6 months there. 6 months before we made it. A year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then let's look at this one. How soon could it potentially happen? So we went from a year to 6 months to 5 months. And so, yeah, we're seeing an acceleration with basically the drawdown here. So if we accelerate down more quickly, we should bounce a lot more quickly. Meaning you might not have that 12 months to accumulate Bitcoin. I don't want to say accumulate 12 months bear market. Maybe it's going to be closer to 9 months, 8 months, something like that. And since we topped at the beginning of October, kind of comes into some of our predictions here. A bounce somewhere between May to July. We got a lot of stuff happening right now with Iran and everything. So just got to be very careful. Also, you have the Democrats attacking Trump, rightfully or not rightfully. I'll leave that to you to argue in the comments there. But the Democrats, they're pressing the Treasury and Scott Bessent on the World Liberty Bank Charter and the United Arab Emirates stake here with World Liberty Fi. And so they're pressing Scott Bessent on over how regulators are handling their bid for a national bank trust charter to issue their dollar-backed loan. They're led by Gregory Meeks here, the Democrats, and they're citing systemic risk, foreign ownership, and political pressure on the bank chartering process. They pointed to reporting that a senior royal from the UAE quietly acquired almost half of World Liberty Fi, including $187 million flowing into Trump-affiliated entities, while the company is pursuing a bank charter from the OCC. Yeah, you know me. Now, Democrats, they're just saying, we covered this yesterday. Elizabeth Warren said no bailout for the cryptocurrency billionaires. World Liberty obviously going to have a very high profile since its proximity to Trump. It's just so transparent via his family. This is going to be a large attack vector. Got another thing spooking the markets, but I'm going to bring it back into the bullishness. This is, I don't want to say it's a misleading headline. It's not a false headline, but this is a little misleading.
Yeah.
So let me walk you guys through this. What do
right
you got?
just before we jump into that, there's more. Speaking of spooking the markets and breaking news, today is the day of breaking on breaking on breaking. We've got this President Trump saying he's considering a limited strike on Iran. He said this just not long ago at all. Not saying this is the backup plan per se, but he's probably not in a great mood with his tariffs getting struck down. So I wanted to ask the chat basically. Is Trump a good leader or a bad leader? Is he the kind of guy that would angrily send a military strike after he's just mad at the Supreme Court? He's in a bad mood. So he's like, fine, push the button. I've been thinking about it for a while. Just push the button. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I could pull it up here. It's only 20 seconds. This is the moment TJ's speaking of.
You can leave now.
Thank you, press.
Get out of the way. Move.
Thank you, press.
I can say I am considering it.
I am considering it. To a room of laughter. What are we in the Hunger Games?
Yeah, that
Are
was
you
strange.
considering bombing people where they'll die? Yeah, I'm considering it. I never liked District 7 anyways.
I'm very mixed. I feel like every other one, good leader, bad leader, good leader, bad leader. Stop bombing the sand. Yeah, so
Stop making glass.
Yeah. Interesting days today. This definitely feels like the mass chaos of a financial reset for sure. There's nothing better to give you an excuse to print money than war, and it's always That's what it always comes down to. If you guys don't hate the Federal Reserve, you can't hate them enough. In my opinion, the Federal Reserve System is a big part of the reason why we have all of these wars that never seem to stop, because war is extremely profitable. Financing governments to go into war is extremely profitable. And that's, in my opinion, a broken money supply is the biggest thing that causes the pain, most of the pain that's going on in the world. Life should be getting better and better for people. But this broken money supply is a huge, huge part of the problem. So sad to see it. Bitcoin is the way out, in my opinion. It is the silent protest. It is the way to exit the system. And the best way to demonstrate that you're for peace is to take your money out of a financial system that's designed for war, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's sad looking at the reports of all the homeless around us. Have you seen those, DZ?
It is sad.
How the homeless are building up even in rural locations in Georgia, and everyone's like, what's the fix? Are we gonna make more homeless shelters? How about you end the Fed? How about you end usury? How about you end a debt-based economy that imprisons and makes as many people as it can poor in the process? Like, we keep looking at these short-term band-aids on the situation that's happening here in the US, and we're better off than the vast majority of the world. And that being said, the homeless are expanding. Trump, how I feel about him, I was very hopeful going into this administration. It felt as hopeful as I did on the way to Obama when I was a young lad. And now I'm completely black-pilled. And I look at this as a structurally unsafe and ineffective. At least the judicial system in the United States is ineffective. And that is 1/3 of our entire government setup of the 3 tiers of government. If you can't effect justice in the United States for something that's clearly gone wrong over the last at least 10 years, me as a construction-minded person, I see that the studs have rotted out. I see that the floor joists have rotted out. I see that the politicians are bought and paid for. And so my mind goes to condemning the structure, right? And that is my viewpoint of it. Maybe, someone can convince me along the line that there is a way to vote our way out of this, but Bitcoin is my silent vote out of this. I just wish that there were entry points into crypto that were outside of the system that were more easily accessible. I know it was brought up to me like Bitcoin ATMs and things of that nature. I do have the way out, which is gold and silver, but getting a way into crypto in a freedom-based manner is something I feel like we need to spend our time fixing. I do feel that way.
100%. Someone saying buying NVIDIA anytime would have been better than buying Bitcoin. They might be right. NVIDIA has gone just gangbusters and probably going to continue to do well. I'm looking at the chart. Let me add it to the stage here. Yeah, NVIDIA, this is just traipsing along. $15 now, trading at 189, but is down from 216. Not down as much as Bitcoin is, however. So you're probably right on that one. Let me talk about this stablecoin fugazi headline that's going around here. Tether supply set for biggest monthly decline collapse since FTX in 2022. So we're looking at a multi-year decline here. The circulating supply has fallen by 1.5 billion so far this month, fell by 1.2 billion in January, and it's his biggest monthly drop in 3 years since the weeks following FTX's insolvency in November 22. Supply logged a $2 billion decrease after the collapse of FTX. So they're going by percentage points here. It's more money today. I think a higher percentage back here. Cointelegraph reached out to Tether for comment on what's causing this supply drop, but has not received a response by publication. So part of the bearish pressure is going to be less stablecoins hitting the ecosystem. I put up USDC market cap on the daily, and you can see they peaked here December, but at one point the market cap declined, look at that, $8 billion. But they would bounce, and it's now only down $4 billion. So we're seeing Tether collapsing with their stablecoin reserves floating out there. USDC, it's also declining by billions. You see all this, and you say, all right, well, that's why there's no liquidity. That's why there's no money buying Bitcoin. But maybe the story isn't as bad as everyone's saying. This is all stablecoins, excluding those. So have USDS, Athena, tons of them. And I'm just doing the last few months here for about the past 6 months. Look at that peak right near the market peak, October 6th. This is October 1st, right here, this vertical line. Look at this, I would say decent increase over the past couple months. This is a not small amount. Let me go up 35. Let's catch that dip, 35 billion. And let's just go to where we're at today, 38 billion. So we're seeing 3 billion when you include all those competitors. So is Tether down? Yes. USDC down? Yes. Is everybody else up? It is.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what I was thinking while you were breaking it down initially. Is it's not that there's less stable coins per se. There's just a lot more competition in stable coins. Seen that with, that chart you just showed. PayPal coming into it, World Liberty Fi, USD1, Athena, all sorts of others competing in that space. Yeah, even Ripple's USD. I haven't covered Falcon much, but there's so many. Gemini has one. Paxos, there's so many different providers of stable coins these days. This is the clear winning business, the best business. And that's what's sad. The best business that's come out of crypto so far is the stablecoin business. Circle and Tether, in my opinion, are making their casting their bid to be the new central banks, essentially. Circle stock looking very juicy at the levels that it's at right now. Just keep dropping, hopefully, and then we'll find a bottom. And that one, you can't get access to Tether per se, maybe through 21 Capital one day, but Circle looking extremely, extremely strong. And yeah, those stable coins, highest profit per employee businesses in the world, some of the best performing companies in the world, and not going anywhere anytime soon. If actually, it seems like just accelerating a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you could be one person with $1 billion company and Tether still beats your ratio. It's like something totally insane. They have like 13 employees and they're just crushing it over there. Hyperliquid, also one of those, very high when you're just looking at the amount of money per employee. But let's go from Hyper to Pump.fun. I saw this. There's a Memecoin runner. It's called Punch. And this guy basically said, hey, I'm seeing a lot of shadiness going on. I think he compared it to Penguin. I'm saying this the exact same picture I saw painted on Penguin. No meme attracts liquidity this way because people believe it's a runner. Saying essentially when a meme coin runs, people just market buy. They're panic buying. They're looking at Jupe. They're looking at Dex tools. They see crazy minute candles. They're watching the wallet, the Solana wallets every second. Are we supposed to believe that magically the trenches pivoted from the dopamine hits of smashing buy to strategic, thick liquidity providing bands below the price to show support? You be the judge. So is this indicative of a meme coin runner? Not at all. What is this indicative of? Market maker manipulation. This guy has an interesting breakdown. The cabal, talking about who is this cabal? It's pump fund market makers. As the founder said, in order for the volume to continue, they need high ceiling runners. They need those success stories. They need the story you can retire from the trenches. Otherwise, the casino will stop producing so much volume. It's a cost of doing business, and it's a marginal cost too. Something that only one launchpad seems to realize. If you have 300 million volume daily and you're getting a percentage from each dollar traded, you can afford to pull a few million in the charts out of the billions that you pull annually. Might be one of the best margins business-wise here. So just saying, be very, very careful. It does look like maybe just some potential. This guy like just straight up stole that guy. I'm like, hey, you stole that dude's response. It's an interesting theory. When you see a meme coin runner over the next few weeks, months, days, be suspicious, be wary, and maybe sit it out. Don't chase that dopamine hit. You're being manipulated by the market makers, and I just want to put that on your radar.
I think that's incredible advice. You should always question a meme coin runner. Do not listen to the people that push you into those, in my opinion. If you're being told, you just got to keep trying. Eventually you'll catch one. In my opinion, it's very similar to playing the lottery. Sure, if you want to throw a couple bucks at it, that's one thing. But if you go in and buy lottery tickets over and over and over and over, usually those are broke people. You're going to be broke if you continue to buy, gamble and gamble and gamble. Meme coins, you actually probably have a lower odds of winning than the lottery. Prices are down so bad, you can make life-changing money with good, solid projects. There's plenty of opportunity to make good money with real projects, not be chasing me. If you think it's funny, you think it's fun, that's a totally different conversation. Again, I'd put it very much in the category of gambling. You're goofing off on a weekend night or something. You want to throw $100 in something because you think it's funny. fine, go for it. You want to throw $5 in something, fine. But don't think you're investing. Don't think you have any kind of edge. You don't. You actually are working against people that do have an extreme edge. So don't listen to people that are pushing you towards meme coins all the time. Either they, I don't. Either they don't know what they're doing. They're doing it for their own gain. That's for sure. But odds are they do know what they're doing, and they just don't care if you get wrecked, and they care more about themselves. Self enrichment. So.
I'm actively shaking the tree of the cabal right now. I was like, where is your D-God now, Frank D-Gods? I tagged him in and I'm looking for him. I want these people
He's
to
doing
come
AI.
back.
He's actually.
Yeah. That's a big shift right there. DZ said it best, though. It's a lot of manipulation. They have to have a winner to convince more broke people to come in and lose that 10, 15 bucks that they want to throw in. And meme coins in 2024, they were like, it was like a casino. It almost like you had a good vibe. The chart would last a few days. It was good times.
Yeah,
vibes
are not there now.
It turned into a knife fight behind a strip bar over the last few.
It went from the club at 1:58 a.m. and you're having a good time and you're at the dance floor and you're sweating and you're grinding and you're just feeling jolly everywhere. And then the light cuts on and it was a manlet the whole time.
Yeah. Now it's 4 a.m. and you don't know how to get out of there.
Yeah, you're just like trapped in some sort of, should I say it? I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say I was like a Podesta basement. I said it. All right, let's move forward here. Let's move. I shouldn't
Please
have said
look at
that.
the like.
Yeah. Please, now we're going to be beaten down behind the club, so please hit the like button.
Look, that poll is just for swimming, guys. It's just for swimming. All right, now this is escalating tensions into the weekend. Be very, very careful. There's going to be a lot of volatility. I think the weekend favors shorts. I'm not entirely sure. If too many people get greedy, the market makers will punish those people. But I think the weekend's going to favor shorts. The U.S. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you're going to be trading this weekend, make sure you're in the Discord watching the quant trade. He's a momentum trader. When it changes, we can flip from short to long very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah. They're short all this morning.
Yeah.
Called the shorts.
Crushed it with shorts. So, yeah, get in there. The link's in the description. It's free to join. You just have to sign up with our affiliate. There's instructions in there on how to do it. So hop in there.
All right. And then I'll maybe give you a little hopium here. So the U.S. has assembled its largest military force since the Iraq invasion of 2003. I did a little bit more digging. We had a huge initial surge in February, March that created about 1,400, let's just say, weapons of war. We're talking like F-22s and frigates, etc. So we went from about couple hundred to 1,400 vessels. Right now, we're in the low hundreds of vessels. We don't know for sure. Estimates for what do we have in the Middle East today, about 240 to 400 vessels. We wouldn't get down to that low a number until about mid-2004. So we're seeing in the last 20 years, we haven't had this much buildup in that region. Looks like we have 2 aircraft carriers, 12 warships, hundreds of fighter jets, multiple air defense systems. Hundreds of cargo flights are happening. Another 50 fighter jets in 48 hours, F-35s, F-22s, F-16s. Oil prices up to fresh 6-month highs here. I did have a couple things I wanted to highlight. On yesterday, he said he would decide his move on Iran in the next 10 days. He later said this timeline's a maximum of about 2 weeks. So a 10 to 14-day window, now a 9 to 13-day window. We're going to make a deal or get one way or the other. White House spokesman declined to discuss what the U.S. would take, only saying only Trump knows what he may or may not do. What the heck is that? Anyways, Trump has yet to decide on whether to order an attack at any scale, although he's considering options ranging from a week-long campaign of attacks to force a regime change to smaller scale wave of strikes on their government and military facilities. We've covered why they're pissed at each other. The U.S. said basically, give us all the concessions that we want, or we're going to bomb the hell out of you. We're just not going to tell you what it means. Within this 9 to 13-day window, we have seen there's a lot of attacks and military campaigns coincide with significant dates within the Israeli government, and there is going to be a holiday. So I'm going to throw out a preliminary guess here. You might see some kinetic activities March 2nd, March 3rd. The Purim, I'm not sure what exactly is celebrating there, but it is a fairly large national holiday. There you go, folks. Just be very, very careful trading this weekend, holding assets this weekend. And Drew, it looks like you're apoplectic here. Are you okay?
Yeah, I can't believe I am once again asking for you to hit the like button and share the stream so
We're
we can
just
continue having a
sharing
show.
what the Pentagon is sharing.
Yes.
That's all. We're not
Yes.
going crazy here.
Yeah, second and third. That's a week from Monday, basically. So, yeah, again, buckle up. Fireworks are on the horizon. And
I did close some of my oil options yesterday, and I don't know. I'm holding on to the rest, but I trimmed about 30% of the position. If anybody was wondering, following along with the oil futures trade, we're up about 100% or something like that. 78%. We're up about 80%. 80%. So, if you're joined in, I put those trades in the Discord. I know we keep pointing you to the Discord, but check the pinned messages. I actually talked about the Discord in the previous video, so check that out. I had a lot of people saying, "Hey, I don't know how to get in. I'm not used to Discord." So go in there. We have a strong customer support within the Discord, so they'll help you guys out. Now, Drew, are you going to be checking out some trades? What do you got going on here, buddy?
Yeah, I'm ready to check out some trades. I do have a couple charts, and honestly, like I feel like the first and foremost thing, I want to map out entry points that I'd prefer to have on good projects. And really the metrics that I'll make this a little bit smaller so it kind of fits in here. So the first and foremost thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was Bitcoin and kind of the timing where we're at. We are, I have basically just like my general buy interest box, which we're tapping the top end of it at right now. But just to look at Bitcoin's general health, I think is going to be helpful for knowing when the party is coming back, right? Because there's a couple of projects that the party is actively happening on, but as I was talking about earlier in the show, we have just barely started to put our head into the red on money flow. So I do think that I don't think we're going to have to spend, the 420 days in pain like we did last bull market / bear market movement. But I do acknowledge that there is some work to be done to dig us out of this generalized range. So in this, I feel like the volume node that was created at the, initially, this is where the 4-year cycle broke, is hitting the all-time high ahead of the halving, but it's also the previous peak, right? So I am actively buying in this range. I do believe Bitcoin momentarily is, showing a little bit of signs of pump from the news of horrible GDP data. We're probably going to war and aliens are real, and we still are not crashing here, which is fun.
Yeah, man, aliens are real the whole time. I didn't know. Oh man, that Purim holiday, Drew. I got something for you here. It is celebrating Israelis' victory over ancient Persia. A lot of that's modern day Iran. So it's literally Israel celebrating victory over Iran, and it might coincide with that date. So just be careful, folks. We might see escalating tensions. The markets are not going to like any kind of missile strike. They're not going to like any of that. Now, maybe in the long term, who knows? But I'm saying in the short term, the markets are going to react violently. So just be very, very careful if you have any trades open. Have those tight stop losses, or maybe just hang out for the weekend with your family, touch some grass.
I think that's really good advice. Realize the world that's right in front of you. Don't get caught up in the global stuff that you can't impact. But all of this stuff does lead to massive money printing. The big print, as Lawrence Lepper likes to call it, is coming. It's undeniable. It's unavoidable. What cover they use for it and who becomes collateral damage in it, the powers that be do not care. So I think that advice you gave, DZ, is very valuable. And many of us need to be reminded that yes, there is evil in the world. There will always be evil in the world. All you can do is affect your world right in front of you. All you can do is impact your family and your friends and your community. So try to spread some light instead of just being laser focused on the darkness. That's the best advice I would say.
All right, well, folks, that's our Drew. You got some trades open, or yay or nay?
Well, we're going to do it on a members only stream setup. So
like it.
We're going to be swapping to a members only stream, and we do have new emojis. Apparently we released a bunch of new emojis in the chat. It'd be really great if you could join us as a member on the channel. I think it's like $5 or $10 a month. Then you get the support badge, you get the member streams, and you get to support someone that is psychotically focused on protecting our bags and making money for us as a community. All of us, TJ, DZ, all of us work in that same regard. And it'd be really awesome if you could show some support and join the member show. I'm going to be able to speak a little bit more freely on the member stream as well. I'm going to be mapping out Tao, Morpho. Someone's asking in the chat about OP. I will look at OP, but honestly, I kind of gave you my inside thoughts on OP yesterday. But if we must, we'll go back in. And really, it's a place where we can focus in on projects that we're talking about in the chat that I can see the community's holding, or potential warning signs or moments where we could back up the truck and likely make a nice move to the upside. So I'm going to be hopping into that. And I think Aaron is swapping us over in the background. I'm not sure if we have to end the show first or not. Not sure how it's going to quite work. I've tried to do this while we were running, and it didn't end up working so we're switching 1 minute. All right. So if you are already a member, just stay tuned. We're going to be moving into that next stream. If you aren't a member, though, I highly suggest you join the channel as a member, because we are psychotically focused on this. Chainlink news. Oh, Lord. Oh, my gosh. And if you are interested in holding crypto cold storage as we head into what looks like the third world championship, cold custody might be your friend, right? And I do emphasize that as we move into this downward trend of the markets, having cold custody matters, because things can go sideways, exchanges can go insolvent, and your crypto can be taken forever. So cold custody is very, very important in this environment. So just want to reiterate that. Now we're going to switch over to the members stream. And if you're not joining me on the members stream,